Are you an art lover? Maybe without the necessary funds to afford an original canvas. In which case, you may have taken an interest in limited edition artists' prints. The whole field of artists' prints can be very confusing. And I believe there must be a lot of people out there who are spending much more than they should on something that they don't completely understand. Which is why I'm making my way now down to Cornwall in the southwest tip of England in an effort to learn more about it all. I've arrived at last, and now here I am in St Ives, an ancient fishing village in Cornwall. It's a place where tourists flock, summer and winter, to visit the galleries, the art galleries and the artist studios as much as anything. But the reason I'm here is to call in at Belgrave Galleries St Ives in Fore Street. And I'm visiting with gallery director Michael Gatzer, who's going to tell me something about original prints.
Hello, Geoffrey.
Hello, Kelly.
Are you here to see Michael?
I am, yes.
Michael!
Hello, Michael. Fine.
Good trip down?
Yes, it's quite a way, but
You got some nice sunshine anyway.
yes, today.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting us to come and
Pleasure.
have a look at some prints with you.
Yep.
We're hoping to find out a bit more than we already know, which isn't a lot, about screen prints and artists' original screen
Right.
prints, screen prints and any kind of prints actually.
Yeah, the difference between what is
That's
an original
right,
print
yes.
is a big problem these days. I think there is a lot of confusion in modern times about what constitutes an original print. Before photography and digital photography, it was much easier, as print was either an etching or an engraving, pretty much. But certainly in modern times, things got a little bit more confused. But anyway, I'll just go over some of the different processes that we regard as, as original prints. First one I'll show you, this is a screen print by Patrick Caulfield, who's a well-known artist. Used quite pop sort of imagery in his work, so screen printing really suited his way of working. This was made in 1973, and so for instance with this print here, it's on white paper, it's actually printed black and white. So the artist would have actually first of all probably printed the, I think the white area. So he would have masked out all the areas that weren't going to be printed white, so this, when the ink is forced through the screen, the white areas fill in, and then he would make another, after that's all printed, and this was actually an edition of 72, so he would have printed 72 of that, just with the white first of all, and then he would have made another stencil, and repeated the process, and printed the black areas. Now they would have been, not necessarily physically done by the artist, but the artist would have coordinated it, and worked very closely with the printmaker, which was always a traditional way of working.
But I think the surprising thing about it for a lot of people will be that although it's printed onto white paper,
Yeah.
it's in fact a two-colour print, not just black on
That's
white.
right, yeah, yeah, and that's what makes it a bit special.
It has a superb quality which you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't see in a photograph, for
And
instance.
it's also very much linked to the artist's painter. I mean, he was a painter primarily. Like a lot of painters, he did make prints as well.
I'm looking at the sold
It's very,
tag here.
Very, yeah, very close to it.
So that, I think like that would cost £950 here.
Yeah, which actually is a lot less than it could be as well. We've actually got sold it at a very reasonable price. It could actually be almost £2,000, but we bought it reasonably, so we've sold it reasonably. Basically.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So that's screen printing. It was used a lot in the 60s and 70s by pop artists because big areas of flat colour was suited their way of working. One of the other processes used which is an original print, so that's like handmade, sort of handmade quality about it. This print here is by Anthony Benjamin, again a painter printmaker, though he did quite a lot of printmaking in his time. And this is an aquatint, an etching in aquatint. Now, an etching is a process whereby the image is actually made onto a metal plate, and through various processes of biting with acid, bits are masked off that aren't going to be bitten. The acid, the bits that the artist wants to be printed, is actually etched by an acid-eating process, which then the ink is then taken, applied to the plate, and damp paper is used over the ink. So basically, the parts of the plates have been etched take the colour of the ink, and the other bits don't. And again, this has been done. I think there were 2, 3 colour. I think there were 3 colours in that. So that would have been worked on 3 different processes through the printing press, and it's an edition of 25.
And relatively recent.
Yes, this is, as I say, printed by Anthony Benjamin. Part of an exhibition we had about 4 or 5 years ago. He initially started printmaking with a very, very important master printmaker in Paris called Hayter. Hayter was a very influential figure to a lot of British artists as well as European artists. And although this is from a later series, and another series he printed, he actually made the plates in Paris. Later studio is in Paris, back in 1949, I think it was. And they were actually, although the plates were made at that time, they were never editioned. So part of his exhibition were the old images were also editioned at the same time. There's a nice picture in this book actually. Which I don't know if that will show up on your camera, but there's a picture of Anthony Benjamin's on the right-hand side there, with Simon. Actually, that shows what an etching press looks like. I don't know if that's actually the print being pulled off there, but it's one of from that series anyway.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
So I mean, the process is much more involved in that. But I'm just going things very simply at this time. Other ways of etching aquatint is one type of what's called intaglio printing, and that really encompasses prints that are made using a metal plate. Other forms of intaglio are dry point, and actually I think I've got, if I just go over here a moment. This one is a much earlier print. Don't know if you've got it against the light though, if you can see it. It's quite small. This is a dry point. This is by an artist called Elizabeth Forbes, and although she came to Cornwall in the late 19th century, this was actually done when she was working she worked in France and Holland, and she was close friends with 2 very famous artists, Whistler and Sickert, and certainly was helped by them in these early works. But a dry point is where is a form of engraving where a steel pen is used to mark the plate. So that's why it's a very sort of fine and beautifully sensitive line. And again, and then it goes through the process of being inked up and put through a press. So that's a dry point, and I can actually show you one of the other main forms of printmaking, which was invented in the mid-19th century, lithography. And this is by an artist called William Gear. And again, William Gear did spend quite a significant part, well, an important part of his career in working in Paris and living in Paris. And this was printed at another studio. But it's a very tactile. I think the lithography's got a lovely sort of tactile texture about it. It was used a lot at the end of the 19th century, especially in Paris, for those fantastic posters advertising dance halls that I think most of us are familiar with, the Belle Epoque.
Yes, of course, exciting.
Yeah.
And this has got loads and loads of atmosphere.
It really has, yeah. I mean, it feels real. It feels like the artist has touched it. I think that's a big difference in that.
I mean, there's virtually fingerprints on it in a way.
That's right, yeah. But it's a richness. And this was done on stone, which has got this very sort of fine grain. One other process which we haven't spoken about so far is what's known as a relief print. A relief print is the closest that most people can remember from school. I mean, the simplest relief print is a potato print, where you cut out a bit of potato and make a design.
We've all done it.
All done that. Well, this is a lino print, which also a lot of people did at school. A lino print lino cut by Terry Frost. Very simple. This is just black and white.
This really is just one colour.
This is one colour, yes. So what Terry's done here is taken a piece of lino, and with a special cutting tool, he's cut out all the bits he wants to be white. So you can actually see the gouge marks here. See how he's put the tool in here? With his gouged
Oh,
in.
yes,
Yeah,
it's sort of scooped out.
that's right. So take all the bits out it doesn't want to be printed. It will then ink up with a roller, ink up the bit of lino, and obviously the ink then just sticks to the bits that haven't been cut out. So when it's printed, you get this very sort of simple, stark effect.
Yes.
This is also, when you do a wood cut, it's a similar sort of process, but obviously you get a slightly different textural feel because the wood's got a different surface to laminate.
There's not a lot of colour in these things that we're looking at, but I understand that'll be because of, unlike today, maybe there's not quite so much facility for printing loads and loads of colours.
Yes.
Maybe it wasn't fashionable. Why?
Maybe not so much. I mean, although we do, some artists did actually use more colours than this. I think really with the lithography, it's probably because a plate's actually each time a plate's made, it has to be hand done each time. So it can get almost you can actually say more with less, as in lots of things in life.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I think that this works beautifully well with William Gere, just with two colours.
It's very graphic, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, screen printing you can have as many stencils as you want. I mean, some people do use up to 20 or 30 colours in a screen print.
While we've been talking, I couldn't help but, out of the corner of my eye, see this one at the back of the gallery here. It's two colours again.
This is quite an early print by an artist called Robert Adams, who's a sculptor primarily, and it's quite interesting that this print has got a very sort of sculptural, the actual figuration, it's got a very sculptural quality.
That's right.
It's almost like two figure forms standing next to each other. So he's using his drawing, his ideas of working out sculpture in a print form. And that's another interesting thing. A lot of artists did use print as a way of working out ideas because you have to reduce your form down to the very simplest
Yes.
terms.
Well, I've seen things by Henry Moore, for instance.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a fantastic little, not exactly a lecture, but very, very sort of informative talk, Michael.
Yeah, I'll say it's very simple, really. I mean,
I know, but I mean that's about as much as we can take.
But it covers most. I think I've covered most of the printmaking processes.
But giclée is something I've heard talked about recently. This is a print process, but you don't have any giclée here.
No, this is where, well, as I said earlier on, that in the early days it was quite interesting. It was quite easy to define what a print was, but since the invention of photography and in later days digital imagery, it's got much more clouded issue. I mean, what is a giclée print really is a computer generated print printed with a very good quality, but nonetheless a sort of an inkjet printer like you have at home on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
So the image is very flat. It has no sort of manipulation. There's no hands-on at all. It's all about image. Now some artists can use that if they're conceiving a piece of work and they want that sort of effect, then that's legitimate. But one of the things I get a little bit concerned about, a lot of work produced these days are photographic reproductions of existing work. So the other way I would define what an original print is that the artist actually conceived it to be made in a print form. What's happening these days is a lot of artists are having existing paintings or drawings photographed and then put through the printmaking process, whether it's photo etching or photo screen print or computer-generated giclée prints. And I think that's where people are getting quite confused now because they weren't conceived as original prints. And the artist hasn't had any hand intervention in the production of the image.
Well, the way I always look at it is that it's almost like a number of photographs of a painting that you've had produced, and you sort of number them 1 to 200 or whatever, and
That's
sign
right.
them all,
That's right, yeah.
just to certify that you've only had 200 photographs taken.
Yeah.
You're not taking any more. I know they're very posh photographs, and they can fool you into thinking they're real paintings or prints, but
Yeah. Well, I think if people know exactly what they're buying, then that's fair enough.
yeah.
But in my own view, I think they are simply reproductions of paintings. I mean, beautifully done. I mean, the inks are good quality and they look good as an image. But what I've been explaining earlier on about this sort of hands-on manipulation doesn't come into it. They're just flat images. They're reproductions at the end of the day.
Not my cup of tea, Michael.
No, and the editions as well, that's huge. I mean, I don't see how a print can be 200 or 300 in an edition.
They cost rather a lot of money, don't they?
That's right, we're talking, this artist here, this was done in 1950, sorry to go back to this, but 1950, it's an edition of 25, and it's priced at $5.50.
Very
And
good.
I've seen Giclée prints at that sort of price.
Well, the thing is, if you buy one of these, it's a piece of art history.
Well, this is, yes. I mean, this is absolutely. I mean, it's an established artist, and it's a handmade object, which is not exactly unique, because it's been 25, but it's fairly close to being unique. I mean, how many exist in the world? I don't know. Often, not all the edition was completed in the earlier days.
Well, anyway, Michael, thank you very much. That's been very, very
My
informative.
pleasure. Hope it helps a little bit.
Oh, it does a lot. Now my job is to make my way over to Hove in Sussex.
Right, it's a nice day for a drive.
Yeah, but I'm visiting a place where they make the kind of screen prints, of a quality that I think you would be liable to show here, at the right time. So we're looking forward to that, but thanks again.
Okay, and see you soon then, Geoffrey. Bye.
Well, I'm here now at Hove Business Centre, the old Jubari Perfume Company, actually, occupied now by a variety of small businesses, like photographers, office design company, even a dance studio. And up here, on the top floor, are the workshops and studios we've come to visit. A specialist screen printing company called Artisan Editions. So this is where it all happens. And the master printmaker, who's ultimately responsible for everything that goes on here, is Sally Gimpson. So how did this all start out, Sally?
I started from going to Loughborough College of Art and Design and did graphic design. I worked in graphic design for about 15 years. Then I was working for a publishing company who bought a screen table in. Sort of literally threw me and the screen table together, and that's how I started to learn. We do all Bridget Riley's printmaking, which is always probably the most challenging work we've ever done.
Yeah.
Then other people, you'll go over to somebody like Howard Hodgkin, where the brush strokes, the mark making, again intensity of colour, are all very important in his work. Currently we're working with about 20 different artists who we're co-publishing with.
That's a lot, isn't it?
It's an awful lot, and again, probably that's about it, because otherwise we won't be able to do justice to each person's work. Take a very long time to make the pieces, again, depending on who the artist is, how many colours we have to put down. Every day you put one colour across another, you get a surprise, something you weren't expecting to happen. So there's always, it's just a fascinating medium, I find.
So what's the difference between these prints you do here and what I might see in a high street gallery?
The main difference is that the prints we make are made directly with the artist. The artists make all the marks, make all the decisions, decide on the colours, decide on their mark making. In the high street you'll find they're usually something that's been photographed and reproduced. So actually they're more like posters. Sometimes artists sign them, but really it's just like a signed poster. It has no intrinsic value in terms of it being made by the artist in the particular medium, which is what original prints are.
Now, these 20 artists, do they all come in here when they want to create their screen prints?
Again, it will depend on each individual artist and how their work is. As you know, with Bridget Riley, it's not important for her to be here, because it's not about the actual making of the marks, it's about the exactness of colour and the exactness of the shapes, which is something that we actually we will proof, and she always will then approve. So whether we have to do one proof or whether we do 9 proofs, which has been known until it's at a point where she's very happy for us to go ahead with the then edition of the work.
Well, would it be possible for us to have a little look round what you actually do here?
I'd love to show you. I think it's, again, a fascinating subject. We've got an artist working with us today, Gilly McCadden, and let's go and see what she's up to and we can have a look at her work. Hi Gilly.
Hi, Sally.
This is Gilly McCadden, who's proofing Works and Work with us today, and she's refining all her colours and the marks.
Hi Julie,
Hello.
what are you up to?
Well, we're just balancing these colours at the moment. I think I'm happy with the colours we've got now. These are the background colours, and I'm going to put some image on top of that. Have a look at that one. It is dark. It's a little bit darker than I expected.
Oh, too dark.
Quite dark. It has got quite a lot of green in that grey as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We talked about some green.
Maybe take it down a bit.
It might be a little bit strong in its
Actually-
coloration.
Yeah, there might be a little bit too much contrast when we get the red on here. So, yeah, I think I'll lighten that.
So you're going to have to make adjustments.
I'll make a slight adjustment on it.
Every colour, as you know, probably affects every other colour. So every time you put another colour down, it affects all the colours around it.
Yes, I understand.
So every colour stage has a different choice to be made. And often it can be amended 6, 7, 8 times, you just never know.
Yes, you really never know. Okay,
So where are we going now, Julie?
I'm going to the ink mixing bay, and I think I'll lighten it a little bit. As Sally said, it's hard to tell until the print's finished whether you've made the right decision, but I'm going to try lightening this. Just take that down a little bit with a bit of white. And I'll try again. Okay, Graham. Ready to go?
Graham's now going to put the ink onto the screen. He'll first flood it into the mesh in the open areas. Then the vacuum will go on to hold the piece of paper in position underneath. And then he'll actually push the ink through and release it onto the paper below. So that's him flooding, it's into the open areas of the mesh. He's going to run it up on a bit of waste first in order to make sure the ink is coming through at the true colour that Gilly's mixed. Do another one. Sometimes we'll do 2 or 3 rough proofs just in order to get the ink to the right colour and ensure the screen's absolutely open and printing every detail. What were you doing? Just lightening that colour?
A little bit of white in it. Not very much at all. It makes any difference.
Let's have a look.
Not a great deal of difference, but
How's that better?
I think so. I think it's a better contrast. It's going to be hard. It might have to be adjusted again later, but I think I like the shade. I think the grey's the right shade, but it's just the tone maybe. Yeah.
Needs a lot of consideration, a lot of adjustments to get it
Absolutely.
exactly right.
Thanks, Gilly. Now let's go and see what Angus is up to. He's the third printmaker who works at Artisan Editions. Hello, Angus.
Hello.
Hello, Angus.
So Angus has been working on a Bridget Riley print. This is the final proof that has been approved by Bridget, and now we've got to edition the work. So Angus is just setting up the first colour.
Registering the first colour, which is this purple. So that goes onto the bed, and this goes into these stops here.
Those are sort of position
They're
guides.
just position guides, just to make sure that every print goes down in exactly
And
the
why
same
is this
place.
red here?
This is just the artwork. It's the light purple on Bridget's print, so we just have to line everything up through the mesh there, just to ensure that it
And
goes.
those orangey areas are where the ink is going to go
That's
through.
right. The orange areas on the artwork are the open areas on the mesh.
Okay.
So that's where the ink will print through.
Okay, and the purple will go through there.
That's right. Just squeegee through.
Marvellous.
Okay.
So, if you're ever thinking of investing in any kind of artist print, remember this film and think hard about what it is you're spending and exactly what it is you're going to be getting for your money. For me as an artist, I find printmaking unique in that it's the only time I ever get to work with another person while I'm making a picture. Take care now.